Guys, it's Ashley from Bookaholics Anonymous, and this is another book talk. The Glass Fair by DeStefano. So, I've only read. Hold on. I've read 2 of her middle grade books, and I read Wither, which was her very first book, if I'm not mistaken. And so, I haven't read a whole lot by her. But, so this is the second of her YA series that I've read. And I will say, it took me a little bit longer to read, but I think that's because at the beginning of the story, there's something about it I just didn't feel connected to the story or the characters or anything, and I wanted something to happen right then and there, and it didn't, which is fine because it's the beginning of it was the beginning of a duology. I think it's just 2 books, and so it was more or less setting up the storyline, setting up the characters, kind of putting them in place. So that might be why it kind of took me a minute to get into the story and want to read the story more to find out what happens. But as it moved along, and as Will, who is the main character, learned about her power, which is turning living things into gemstones, which is definitely an interesting concept, I think. But yeah, so once she found that out about herself and started to want to learn about, well, not learn about because she thought it was a curse, but started I don't know, just once she got her powers, it's when the story started to become a little more interesting. But still, it took a while for it to get to that point where I'm like, yeah, I want to know what happens to Will, because, yeah. So I think that the point in that story was where she finally was banished. She wasn't really banished from her kingdom. She's more like, just, the king said, goodbye, don't come back, basically, and told everybody that she was dead. Which, I mean, I guess might be a little bit of a spoiler, but not too much, because I didn't really, But there is a reason for him to do that to her once he found things out, and so yeah, once she got away from the kingdom and just kind of became this wanderer is when I started enjoying her a little bit more. And it's sad because I really enjoyed her when she was with her brother Gertie, but once she's gone, you didn't see a lot about her brother after that, but you got certain chapters had him and her other brother Baron, and her mom, and like some of the ways they deal with grief and stuff. But yeah, once Will was out by herself and wandering around, and then she came upon like this little town or whatever, and something happened in this town, and she wanted to save this girl. And when she did that, she ran into the other characters, which would end up being the characters throughout the book with her. And those just forgot those characters' names. Not Will. Wow. Actually, wow. Like, Loom. Okay, Loom. I know. Do it. So she meets Loom, and then she meets Zaya. And they kind of become the secondary characters in her story. At first she tries to run away from Loom because he kind of finds out about her secret, and she wants to get away from him because she thinks he's going to try to use her and everything. And so she finds this boat where she gets on, and she thinks the boat's going to take her away from all her problems. And that doesn't quite happen because who should be on that boat, but the person she's trying to run from as well. So, and that is where the story really, really begins to kind of flesh out, and you kind of start learning about who Will is. You learn who Loom is, who Zay is. You learn who this person, I think Pan is his name, which is like a marveler who does like curses and stuff like that, to who Will is trying to find. So we learn about him, and so like I said, it kind of fleshes out all these characters, and that's kind of in the middle of this, like the middle of the book, which is okay. It's gonna happen that way, but and I don't know. I mean, I liked Will as a character. I thought she was, for who she was and stuff and everything, she was definitely strong for, you know, being raised in the kingdom that she was, and for having this curse gift thing that she had, and trying to keep everybody from it and not hurt everyone. And then then comes Loom, which we know sooner or later there's always some kind of storyline involving the two characters. So we know somewhere down the line something's gonna happen with them, you know. It's gonna do. There's nothing. But yeah, I mean, I loved Loom. Like, for anyone who doesn't want to know what happens past that point, go ahead and turn it off, because there's no way for me to like not talk about Loom and not kind of spoil something, I think. But Loom is actually the banished prince from the Southern Isles. So his dad basically kicked him out. Sorry, my eyes itchy. Kicked him out of his kingdom. And while he did that, Loom still wants to be this prince and help his kingdom, help his people live through whatever his dad is putting on them. Because his dad is up in this castle, you know, high life, whatever, and he's got his people down in the villages below and stuff who are suffering with death and starving and all this. And then you have Loom, who wants to help those people, but can't because he's banished, and if he goes back to these villages, he's got a bounty on his head, and he's got some other reasons for not wanting to go back as well. So I really have a soft spot for Loom. I enjoyed his character so much, even though he tricked Will, even though he kind of was conniving and all that, I still enjoyed his character, and I still love him. Just love princes, I guess. And then you have Zay, which is the captain of the ship that they're on. And she is also part of Loom's world. And they get into who she is to Loom. And then Zay has a kid as well, Ada. And just all these little characters, you know, and Will trying to figure out who they are and trying to see if they're on her side or if they're going to expose her for what she is, and all this, and stuff just kind of builds up and starts happening, and eventually they all have to kind of become friends, I guess you could say. They kind of have to trust each other a lot and know that they're not going to do anything to each other that's going to hurt them. And then it's the ending that really, I think, I really enjoyed. And I enjoyed the ending, but then I hate it because now I want to read the second book to see what happens to the characters. And I don't have the second book yet, so I gotta get it. And I don't even know what the second book is called. I can't remember. Something C, I think. But yeah, the ending is definitely one of those little cliffhangers that we either love or hate. And in this case, I kind of don't like it because it just, you're like, what happens to Will? What happens to Loom? what happens. But yeah, so I definitely give this either probably maybe a 4 stars out of 5. But so if you guys have any questions or want to know anything else that I can try to help you with, I will. Let me know if you've read it and what you thought about it. Yeah, I will see you guys next time.